Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder what makes us tick, not just when things are going great, but especially when we're struggling? Today we're diving into some fascinating research that looks at how we experience and react to the world, exploring if there are common patterns that lead to distress, but also how these patterns might be different for people in different countries. It is all about understanding the processes behind our feelings and actions, not just labeling the problems. Think about it. For a long time, mental health has been about diagnosing symptoms, like saying someone has X disorder. But what if the real issue isn't just the label, but the underlying ways we process information, our emotions, our connections with others, and our ability to change? That is the big idea behind process-based therapy, or PBT. Instead of just treating the symptom, PBT aims to understand and change the actual inner workings that lead to distress. To do this, scientists created a tool called the PBAT. It's basically a questionnaire that asks about specific actions and experiences. Some of these are positive behaviors like paying attention to important things or connecting with loved ones. Others are negative behaviors like letting your thoughts get in the way or struggling to change when needed. The idea is that these specific processes predict our well-being or distress. This new study took this PBAT tool and brought it to Spain to see if it works there, and then compared it to data from the US, Sweden, and Poland to see if there are any big cultural differences in how these processes play out. So, how did they do it? For the Spanish part of the study, they got over 600 adults to fill out the PBAT. They were careful to make sure their group of participants looked a lot like the general Spanish population in terms of age, gender, and where they lived. They also had people fill out other questionnaires about how sad, anxious, or stressed they felt, how vital they felt, and how satisfied or frustrated they were with their basic psychological needs like autonomy and connection. They did something similar for the US, Sweden, and Poland samples in previous studies, gathering data about those same psychological processes and outcomes. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. They didn't just look at simple correlations. They used a smart computer method called the Baruta algorithm. Think of it like a detective looking for the most important clues. This algorithm helps identify which specific PBAT items, meaning these specific processes were the strongest predictors of distress or well-being in each country. It is like finding out which actions or thoughts are the biggest drivers behind how people feel. Then, they took this information and used a cool visualization technique called network analysis. Imagine a web. In this web, the outcomes like sadness or vitality are like big points, and the PBAT items, the processes, are lines connecting to them. If a process is a strong predictor, the line is thicker. If multiple processes connect to a group of outcomes, those outcomes might form a cluster, a community in the network. This helps them see how these different psychological processes are organized and how they work together to influence our well-being. So, what did they find? In Spain, the biggest predictor of distress across the board, sadness, anxiety, stress, anger, even lack of support, was difficulty expressing emotions appropriately. It seems that when people can't find the right outlets for their feelings, it really impacts their overall well-being. But it was different in the US. There, the biggest driver of distress was feeling stuck and unable to change ineffective behaviors. This suggested a sense of not being able to adapt or improve things yourself is a major source of struggle for people in the US, according to this data. Sweden showed a different pattern again. In Sweden, it was more about negative thinking and having trouble paying attention or connecting with the moment. It seems for people in Sweden, it is the internal mental processes that cause the most problems when they go wrong. Poland had a more balanced picture, with a few processes playing a similar role. But one interesting finding was that for vitality or feeling energetic and alive, social connections seemed to be more important than cognitive skills, which was different from some other countries. What is really striking is how these relationships form communities. In the US, for example, it looked like there was a strong link between physical health and vitality, and how the inability to change things affected a whole host of negative feelings. It paints a picture of how interconnected our psychological processes can be. Sweden and Poland, however, showed a clearer split between positive and negative outcomes, meaning the pathways to feeling good were more separate from the pathways to feeling bad. And in Spain, physical health itself was surprisingly linked to the distress community, suggesting that when people struggled with their emotions, it also impacted their physical health more directly than in other countries. This is a significant observation. Now, it's important to remember that this study looked at people at one specific point in time. It tells us which processes tend to predict distress or well-being across groups of people. It doesn't necessarily mean that one process causes another or how these things might unfold for an individual over time. time. That is a limitation, but a super important one to acknowledge. The researchers themselves point out that the next big step is to study individuals over time. Imagine getting check-ins throughout the day with your phone asking how you're feeling and what you're thinking. This kind of ecological momentary assessment could build personalized networks for each person, showing exactly which personal processes are driving their distress or well-being. That would be game-changing for therapy, allowing for truly tailored interventions. One thing to consider is how they recruited participants. They used online panels, which is a common and efficient way to get data, but it means the people who participated might be a bit different from the general population. Also, the study didn't test measurement invariance across all countries, so while the patterns are fascinating, we need to be a little cautious about saying they're perfectly equivalent across every single nation. So what does it all mean? This study gives us a really valuable Spanish version of the PBAT, showing it's a robust tool validated in a new language. More importantly, by using network analysis, it gives us a visually intuitive way to see how psychological processes are linked to our mental health, and that these links can differ across cultures. It's a powerful reminder that mental health isn't a one-size-fits-all situation. The way we process emotions, adapt, and think can have distinct impacts depending on our environment and experiences. The future here is so exciting. Imagine going to a therapist and they could build a map of your mind, showing exactly what processes are at play for you. This research is paving the way for that personalized, person-centered approach to mental health, moving beyond labels and towards understanding the dynamic processes that shape our inner lives. It is a step towards helping people more effectively by truly understanding their unique struggles. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below with your thoughts on cultural differences in psychological well-being, and don't forget to subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of science. Thanks for watching.